Welcome to the second half of 2025 in all of its glory. The first 6 months of 2025 has been really rocky for many of us. Many things that we think that we had dealt with, the things that we had thought we had let go of, the things that we thought we surrendered to, all just keep reappearing. And we've done the inner work. We've done the manifestation things. We've done the exercises, the meditation, the journaling, but everything still seems to not want to change. There's just something that just won't move. And no matter where you look, no matter where you turn your attention, no matter what part you feel as though you need to heal inside of yourself or what you need to say to someone, you do it and you might have some semblance of relief for a moment, but then it comes back swinging, and sometimes swinging harder than it did the time before. And 2025 is an ending year, and it's not just endings for, say, what's happening outside of us, which really is just a reflection of something within ourselves that's ending. In previous years, we've been able to work on all of this inner work, fixing the limiting beliefs, fixing the stories, healing the trauma, letting go of the vows and contracts. But that's not necessarily enough anymore. We need to actually look at the things that we don't want to look at. And some of us may not even be aware that we have these things to look at. We've been so trained through this lifetime and other lifetimes, and even potentially through ancestral stuff, to be able to look at the surface level things or even the things just at the top, so that we keep the things that we are deeply wounded by or ashamed of or have guilt around buried within us. And in 2025, with this snake energy, you can't not look at this anymore. I call it you have to look in the drain, the icky, yucky drain, like what's in the drain. For years, you may have been doing belief work and all of this, and you were just kind of circling the drain, but never actually touching what was in there because it was so deep, so hurtful, so scary, that you just hoped that if you just spun around the drain, that you wouldn't actually have to look at what was inside of that, and it would just shift and go away. In 2025, we're being shown that we can't do that. We actually have to look in the drain. And this stuff is the stuff that we have forced ourselves to forget because it hurts. Or, like I said, we have shame. But if you want to be able to really embrace the energy of 2025 and the gift that it is giving us, we have to look at those things. Now, if you're somebody who's very reflective of what's happening in the outside world, everything that you are being attracted to watch, whether it's a psychic on YouTube, whether it's the news, XYZ, that is a reflection of actually something inside of you, and potentially something that's in that drain that your higher self is trying to get you to look at. If you watch those things and you have a emotional response of fear or guilt or shame or anger, that's all reflection of something inside of you. We do create our reality, but we don't do it in a vacuum. We do it as a whole, as a one, meaning that anyone outside of us who we think is being treated unfairly is just a reflection of how we felt like we were treated unfairly, not to negate their story, but to be able to see it within ourselves and be able to heal it so that we can shift within ourselves to then create a reality where not only you don't suffer, but that suffering doesn't exist anymore. And that is the beauty of 2025. We're being asked to look at these wounds of this repetitive history thing that's been going on, not just for 100 years or 200 years, for thousands of years, where we go into these cycles of this deep wounding and we fight against it instead of taking a step back and saying, okay, so what is my part in this? How did I create this? Not single-handedly, but through your beliefs and your trauma and your stories from past lives, or even from, like I said, ancestral stuff. And when we look at those and we heal those things, that stuff in the drain that we don't want to actually maybe see or remember that we maybe did have a hand in this, maybe not directly, but even indirectly, in having this be part of the story that is now playing out. We need to look at that stuff. We can't just hope and pray that the outside world will change and then everything will be rainbows and unicorns. It does not work like that. That's just part of the fear model that we have been stuck in for tens of thousands of years, where we become reactive to fear and anger and we fight against it instead of actually remembering that you're a divine sovereign being and that you get to choose what your experience is, but also in that choose the experience of others, which meaning if you can heal these deep wounds, many of them come from Atlantis, Jesus time, even some like US stuff, if you're in the US or in the country that you live in. And those wounds are just replaying like a movie. This life is nothing but a movie. You are scripting the characters. You are the main character, and everyone else plays a role for either your becoming into this new version of yourself, or they show you where your wounds are, and those things obviously hurt. So instead of being reactive to the world, say to yourself, gee, it's my higher self or my soul trying to tell me that there's a piece in this that I myself have to heal. And when I heal, the world will shift and change. We've been taught that everything happens at the grassroots, or someone outside of us needs to change in order for us to feel safe, or in order for us to have our feelings validated, or for us to be accepted. But that's not the truth at all. Those things have to happen within ourselves. You must accept who you are. All of your perfections, imperfections, it doesn't matter. You were created, designed as you are by Source to be who you are, not so that you can let other people judge you and tell you that you're not good enough, or that you don't know enough, or you won't be successful enough. That is their story based on their own life and their own insecurities within themselves. You do not have a job to respond to that or assimilate to that, because you were designed to be who you are now on purpose. We're all perfectly imperfect. And perfect is a pipe dream. Who even defines that? If you're in that, you're trying to assimilate to a version of yourself that doesn't even exist. It's all in your mind. It's just this identity in your mind. No one else has it, just you. So you are literally sabotaging yourself in order to reach this perfection, this ideal that isn't you, based on the judgments of other people, because they're reflecting back to you your own insecurities. It's a cycle. It's a mirror. Your energy goes out, the people around you reflect back to you the stuff inside of yourself that you don't want to see yourself. Most we've been taught to ignore it or suppress it or make like it doesn't matter, or we assimilate to it. But that has to end. We need to be able to look at that mirror and say, okay, what is being reflected back to me? Is it mine? If you're having a reaction to it, it's yours. Because that's the world we live in. It's a mirror. And you have to be able to look at those things. So accept yourself for who you are. Accept that you have magic, that you can create your reality. And in creating your reality, you create a world where people are kinder. We live in harmony. I dream of a world where we see each other as souls instead of the wardrobe that we chose to wear in this life, skin color, eye color, culture, religion, so forth. And that we meet each other on a soul level and see the value that each soul brings, instead of the things that we get reflected back to us from them about insecurities about ourselves that then we project onto them and try to get them to change, so somehow it makes us feel better. But I will tell you, from working with hundreds of clients as well as myself, and even in my family, if you do that, if you think that the other person changing will somehow make you feel better, it's a lie. Someone has told you that. That's a lie. It is a great way for people to manipulate you, for you to create their reality for them. Because what will happen is, when you remove that so-called threat, or that other person assimilates to what you want, you'll just manifest someone else that fits that same role, and you'll find another scapegoat, because the issue isn't that person outside of you, it's actually within you. So in 2025, we're being asked to look at all those things that we judge others for, the stuff that is outside of us that we're angry about, and see where that's actually coming from within us. Where can you not let yourself win? You know, this is a big thing. This came up for me in June. I had gone somewhere with my husband, and we were at we were playing a game, and I couldn't let myself win. Like, I literally watched in real time myself self-sabotage myself. And it was really frustrating to me. It's like, why wouldn't I let myself win? It was so close, but yet I could feel that it was there, that the possibility was there, but I backed away from it because there's something inside of me that felt like somehow it was cheating, or winning wasn't safe. And these are all things that Source and your higher self are trying to tell you where your edges are and how you react to the world, the things that you don't react to in the world. One of the things that they've been showing me a lot, and I've been working with my clients with, is that if you live in the US, you go to the gas station, I don't know, maybe once a week, depending on how much you drive. And at every gas station, there is scratch-offs or lottery. And those are not created in a void. That is Source saying to you, you know, do you want it? And, you know, I was brought up to play lottery and expect to lose, which is a problem that should be fixed if that's also something that you had. But Source is like, listen, I'm offering you, I don't know, whatever the jackpot is for Powerball, and you won't even go in and play. And in that, I'm saying no, that I'm not worthy, that it's not for me. And I really had to start to examine some of those beliefs. It's not that I need to win the lottery, but it was a great way to see where my edges really were and whether I was really comfortable with the level of abundance that I would like to have, not just for myself, but for the ripple effect that I know it will allow for. In 2025, in a couple of days, I turned 52. And in my 52nd year, I have big goals. I'm going to publish my first fantasy fiction novel, which at 52, I never thought I would be doing. I never thought I'd be doing in general. It's never on the roadmap. I'm loving writing, and I cannot wait for people to read it. I'm launching a brand new women's community, Awaken Her Within, where I help women do exactly what I have done, reinvent themselves, get out of the patterning that's keeping you stuck, learning how to express themselves safely in anger instead of internalizing emotions, remembering who they are, allow themselves to flow, find safety, regulate their nervous systems so that you can step into who you were meant to be instead of who society told you had to be. And 2025 is all of that. It is about shedding all of the layers that everyone has ever told you had to be, whether they told you directly or not. Because from the moment you were born, and potentially even in womb, your nervous system and mind have been learning how it needed to be in order to stay safe in your environment. So even before you could speak or walk, you have these identities placed over, almost like skins or webs over who you are underneath it all. And you never got a chance to actually experience that. We are not becoming something new. We're not becoming this foreign thing. And this was a reframe that I heard a couple of months ago, and I was like, oh, and it's true. We're not becoming something new. People are saying, oh, I'm going to become this new person and all of this. No, you are just shedding the layers that are preventing you from being who you've always been, who Source created you to be. All the identities that you picked up from a small child in your teen years, early adulthood, from society, family, boyfriends, girlfriends, that you are every time you're around them, and you shift and change like a shapeshifter. Instead of being able to shapeshift into your own, you have to become who Source actually wanted you to be in this life. And to do that, you need to shed all those layers, and those layers are identity. And identity are deeply rooted. And it can take some patience and time to be able to shift those identities depending on your childhood. If you had a deeply traumatic childhood, know that shifting this identity can be hard. And if you're somebody who's struggling with that, I actually suggest that you find somebody like a therapist, licensed clinical therapy. They can help you work through that, and not with talk therapy, more with either, it's called ART therapy, or I always get these initials wrong. I don't know if it's EDMR or EM. I always get those, but internal family systems, so that it can start to work with the brain. Because what happens when you have such traumatic experiences as a child, your brain actually changes. It's not a mental thing, it's actually a physical thing. And you may need some help to get over that. Now, if you're not struggling with that, then I can help you with those things. I'm not a clinical therapist, nor do I want to be. Something I've had to learn the last couple of months, because many of my clients have been what I'm calling cracking. Because in order for you to get to that identity that you really are underneath it all, you have to crack. You have to crack the armor that you have built around you subconsciously to keep yourself safe. Because you can't be that anymore. You can't take that with you. That's not who you are. That's not where your magic is. That's not where the abundance is, the freedom, the love. It's surface level when you have the armor. It's limited, and that's not what Source and your higher self wants you to experience in this next phase of your living as we go into 2026 and the energy of new beginnings. So you have to look at, okay, where am I being somebody I'm not still? And this could be a job, it could be a partner, a husband, a wife, it could be friends, it could be siblings, parents, grandparents, society in general. Because some part of you learned that it wasn't safe to be anything but that. And that's just who you are. And if you watch yourself, you'll see that you change depending on the person you're around. And maybe you're even aware of that, you didn't know why. And it's just because there's trauma involved in that, and your nervous system has learned that that's the place to be safe, and it has to be that person to be safe. You can't do that anymore. The rug is literally being pulled out from underneath you. You need to be able to look at what that is and work on why you can't let it go. You being the identity that you learned as safe with your mother as an adult does not help you. What actually happens is you have your mother's voice in your head, and all the things they used to say to you, and they keep you small and stuck, even when you're not around them. And that's not what your soul wants. So yes, this energy of 2025 has been difficult, but it's been difficult because we have been playing with the frosting, with limiting beliefs and stories and trauma. Not to say that some of that wasn't deep. I'm sure it was. I know of myself it was. But it's much deeper than this. We need to look at the things that create our identity. Many people talk about, oh, you just have to become your future self, and you have to identify with a version that has everything that you want. Yes, 2025 and then 2026 is all about that. But some of us have such deeply rooted identities that is near impossible to do in just a fell swoop. It has to be more articulated. We actually have to look at what's underneath. We can't carry it forward. And some of us have such deep internalized anger, or deep internalized learned helplessness, or fear, or guilt and shame, especially as a woman. We carry this with us for many generations, potentially, again, ancestral, and we just cannot just shift because it's so deeply ingrained. I recently attended a retreat in June, and it was run by two guys. I love them to death, but there were mostly women in the audience. It was in person, but it was online, and I was online, so I wasn't really in the room. But the women kept asking questions like, how do I feel safe? I don't know how to feel safe. I want to do this, but I don't feel safe. And they couldn't relate. And it dawned on me in that moment that there's things that as a woman, especially from the divine feminine aspect that we carry, that it's hard for the man to understand. And that's okay. You know, they don't need to understand. What needs to happen is we need to see that reflection and say, okay, what is it about the feminine that we need to heal within ourselves so that we can get to the same level that they have? It's not that we don't have the ability. It's just the feminine's been so bastardized for so many years, tens of thousands of years, going back to Atlantis, that it feels like being in a rock and a hard place. It's like, yes, I'm supposed to rise. Yes, I'm supposed to become this beautiful butterfly and have the abundance and share my message. But some part of you wants to just crawl up inside and die because it's not safe. And now is the time not to crawl back into the cave or into the ground. It's now to pull it off and actually see what it is. And through my own work with myself and with my clients, I have an understanding of some of what that is. And if you're interested in that, you can join my brand new school community. Currently accepting the first 33 VIP founding members. You're going to get different benefits than any of the others. You have a set rate. And I'm going to build a community of women who are rising, who are looking at this, they feel safe to express who they are, express who Source not only created them to be, but who they came here to stop cutting their voice, stand up for themselves, be confident, be magnetic without feeling like they're going to attract negative attention. And not just get you to that point, but to create a community where we're all doing this together as one. That is my vision for 2026 as I enter my 52nd year. Because you can't do this alone anymore. The divine feminine and the feminine has been so segregated into these pockets. And depending on those pockets, you may be more aligned to the masculine energy because that feels safe. But if you're listening to me now, it's because your soul wants you to entertain more of that feminine. And in order for you to do that, you have to first feel safe in your body. Your nervous system needs to feel safe. Your mind needs to feel safe. And that's all possible in doing, but you have to really start to break down the layers of what that is and the identities that you have become in order to feel safe. So sorry for the disconnection. My microphone decided it didn't want to be connected anymore. Apparently needs to be recharged. So I apologize. This looks a little different. But I was saying is that in 2025, you must shed the skins that are preventing you from being who you're supposed to be. That version of you that Source created you to be is where the ease is, the flow, the abundance, the love, all the things that you want. But you can't get there unless you are willing to let go of the identity or mask that you've been wearing potentially since you were born. And you have to find that safety again to be safe in the version of you that you were meant to be. You are not meant to struggle. You are not meant to have lack. You are not meant to suffer endlessly. You're not meant to be in fear all the time or anger all the time. Those are just supposed to be guideposts. So when you experience them, you go, oh, I'm out of alignment. I need to shift something versus it being your story for your whole life. That's not how this is supposed to be. And believe it or not, the energy of 2026 is actually knocking on the door. I know it's another 5 or so months out, but the energy of it starts to build in 6 months in. So the invitation is there. It's like 2026 is a 1. So that means, or 0, I'm not sure, but that's new beginnings. And what does that look like to you? The thing is you can't bring the skins or layers or masks that 2025 is inviting you and maybe not so gently nudging for you to let go of into 2026. They're not who you are. They can't come. So what is it that you need to do in order to let it go, to heal the things that hurt? And if it means you need a session with me, my link's below. You can schedule a session. You can join the Awaken Her Within. I have some mini courses stuff in there that you can use. And if you go to that link that is below, you will also see an outline of what that is. If you have any questions, you drop them below. But this can be your year when everything changes. Everything gets easier. Is that not what you want? You've been doing all this, right? And it can happen to you because you were made for it. So that's it for this video. I will make another one in August as the energy of that starts to build in. But let's do this together. Let's all lift each other up and shed what is no longer ours, and stop pretending and stop playing the game that has kept us down for centuries. It's time to rise.